Hello and welcome to this episode of the PowderBurn podcast. I'm Jordan McCormick with Delta Team Tactical, and with me, as always, is
Patrick Martin.
That's right. And we're excited to have a special guest with us today, one of our giveaway partners for this month. We have Gary Cauble from Adaptive Tactical. I said your name right, correct?
Correct.
All right. Hey, thank you for joining us, Gary. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and just you audience, any viewers out there, we're going to apologize in advance if Gary and I deviate and start talking about wake surfing and not about firearms. So
they're both good passions.
So. They are, and it's likely to happen. So, just you've been warned. But yeah, you've been warned. So, Gary, introduce yourself to us. Tell you where you're from, where you grew up, and how you got into firearms.
For sure. As you said, my name is Gary Cauble. I am the VP or one of the owners here at Adaptive Tactical. We're based out of Nampa, Idaho, which is basically right outside of Boise, Idaho. So we've been in business Adaptive since about 2012. And my original business, we actually started in California. So today, would I choose to start a business in California? No, in this industry.
Yeah.
Maybe in the wake surf industry, but not in the gun industry for sure. But we started our first business called Knox Industries, or Knox Stocks, some people might know it as. We started that in my garage, my business partner and I, which is actually my wife's uncle. So it's a family business here in Idaho still. But we started that Knox Industries back in 1999. And we built up Knox to be kind of a cult following. Everybody loved the product. For those that don't know anything about Knox, it was a recoil reduction product that we put into shotgun stocks, rifle stocks, both in like folding stock versions and extended stock versions and stuff. And we built that up to kind of, like I said, a kind of a cult following, where to a point where we couldn't keep up with the demand for Knox stocks. So a lot of law enforcement, a lot of sport shooters, just home defense. So we built that company up from 1999 till 2007 in California, in Paso Robles, California. And actually our neighbor in Paso Robles, California, we had two neighbors that people might know, was Hogue Grips. Was literally like I could take a rock, throw it out the window and hit Pat Hogue's car, or Aaron Hogue's car out there. And then on the other side, down the street a little bit further, was Weatherby. So
wow.
Yeah, so it was quite a block there in California. So Hogue is still in that same location. They have some other spots, I think, in Vegas and Mexico that they do stuff. But so that was kind of our neighborhood there in California. So we built it up, and then a fateful call I made to Blackhawk in 2007 to an individual that would eventually be my boss at Blackhawk. But I called up and I said, you know what, Blackhawk, you have the number one catalog. The catalog, if you guys remember, it was like this thick. Everybody loved to get the Blackhawk catalog back in the day. So I called up and I said, you guys don't make stocks, do you? Would you be interested in having us make you stocks? And we put the Blackhawk name on it, and you can put it in the catalog. You don't have to worry about, coming up with your old line of products. And he said, well, that's a great idea. But if the owner, Mike Knoll, likes the product enough, he'll just buy your company. Oh. So we're like, interesting. So that conversation turned into, that was in May, and by December I lived in Virginia Beach with my family. So that quick return. So I was living there by October, but my family, we moved everybody from California to Virginia Beach, and Norfolk is where Blackhawk's at, of course, with all the Navy SEAL presence there at the bases there in Virginia. That's where the headquarters was, and we started Knox Industries, turned into Knox Stocks within the Blackhawk family. And I moved to Virginia Beach, and my partner Jim and my brother-in-law moved here to Idaho, and Blackhawk had another really big facility here in Idaho. And that's kind of how Knox became part of Blackhawk. And eventually, as everybody know, ATK, or now Vista Outdoor, bought Blackhawk. And when that happened, they said, well, you can move anywhere you want. And we just felt led to move back out west. And they had a big facility here in Boise, or Meridian at the time. So we moved out here and joined family that was already here and worked for Blackhawk for a while. And then we started Adaptive Tactical. And now Adaptive Tactical is what it is. We're growing the brand. We're excited about not only our own stuff that we're doing, but we also do a lot of work for Mossberg shotguns. We do a lot of product development for other companies, also like Genesis Arms, who's another Idaho company up in northern Idaho. Great shotgun. If you've not shot that shotgun, amazing shotgun, the Gen 12.
It is.
Yeah,
It's for those who don't know, it it's like a shotgun that goes on like an AR-10 upper, if I'm not
yeah,
mistaken.
correct, correct.
LR-308
Yep.
specifically. Actually, it's
Hmm.
not. It's on the DPMS platform, and really quick mag changes, something like that. Stuff like that. I kind of described it as like a better version of a Saiga on
Way
on
better.
the AR
Yep.
platform.
Way
Yeah,
better. Way
we
better.
carried them a while ago, and it just wasn't a fit for our customer base.
Yeah.
But super good product,
Yeah. Super
super good
robust.
people too.
Oh yeah, great guys. Super robust platform. They do full auto, semi-auto. They have a
Oh, I didn't
breacher.
know that a full auto.
Yeah, that's
Can
what
you
they were
imagine a
shooting.
full auto 12 gauge?
Some of the
Jeez.
listeners might have been at SHOT Show and shot that out at the range. They did a big range night where they did the helicopter with the gun on it, and um, they were out there shooting that full auto. And it was probably the longest line at the range was that thing, and the smiles that people have in their face when they're walking away was just wow. And they put our stocks on as a factory option, our knock stock or our adaptive stocks. They put those on as a factory option, and then right now we're developing a 15 round drum for them. So
Cool.
15 round drum magazine that'll be out here probably in about a month and a half. We're pretty excited about that. So
As they should put your stocks on there. Like we actually have one of them right here. We actually
oh,
have the giveaway gun right
nice.
here.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've seen the whole thing.
It's
I've
pretty
seen
crazy.
pictures, but yeah,
Yes.
that looks incredible.
And so this butt pad here with these honeycomb holes,
Yep.
it if you're shooting anything with heavier recoil, we shoot a lot. We sell a lot of 450 Bushmaster, 458 SOCOM, heavier big bore stuff like that. That is the stock to put on it. 12 gauge, absolutely.
Especially
Correct.
full auto. I can't
Yeah.
imagine anything but this
Yeah.
with full auto.
And that's
So
what we found, Jordan, with that stock right there is, when we brought that out a few years ago now, is everybody's like, oh man, that's such a crowded space. Magpul owns that space. Everybody else is in that space. We're like, well, we try to come into a space with something unique, and that recoil pad was something that we brought to that space, and it's been a really good. That's our number one selling item is that black stock right there with that recoil pad, and then we also put an oversized adjustment pin in it because you mentioned guns like that 458 SOCOM. We've shot it with single shot 50 cals, and we've really beefed up that middle pin area right there because some of those heavy hitting rifles, we've had some of our OEMs tell us, like in their test labs, that some of our competitors, the pin will actually break out over about a week's time.
wow.
Ours has lasted over a year and a half in their test labs with that same pin right there. So it's a really durable, super comfortable, and we've really kind of found our way into that space with that particular recoil pad and everything. So, and same with the grip. We wanted to come in with something that was a little unique. We do
This
have,
grip?
yep, that's our
Okay.
LTG grip, our lightweight tactical grip. It's kind of that skeletonized look, so we're really pleased with that. But it gives
Yeah.
you that look of the aluminum, grips, but without the heat conduction or the cold conduction. So especially if you're shooting in Utah like you guys or us here in Idaho, you leave that thing on a table and it's made out of aluminum, it's going to cook your hand or the cold, vice versa. But
Or
that
freeze
one,
it.
yeah, exactly. So that was kind of, again, our first entry into the grip market. We have 2 more grips that we're working on right now, so we're going to keep expanding that category along with stocks in the future. So,
Cool.
yeah, that
No,
giveaway looks really good.
and just like an endorsement of the stock, my grandpa, who's 90, came to me and he wanted me to build him a 6.5 Creedmoor.
Yeah,
He got remarried, and his son-in-law has a 600-yard range on his farm, and so he wanted something that they could reach out and touch that, but he's 90, like,
yeah,
and I put that on him, put that on it, and Creedmoor's got a pretty decent kick to it. It's not like a 12 gauge, but it,
snap, yeah.
yeah, you do feel it. And he's like, I barely feel anything with that. Like, so
Nice.
it got a guy who's in his 90s out shooting, comfortably. So
Sounds
he
like
was a huge fan of it.
sounds like a tough guy already. So that's good to hear
He,
testimony
that
on
is,
that for sure.
he is a tough guy already. So
Yeah.
I'll send him this. He'll be excited that we're talking about him.
So
So
that's
just
great.
just another endorsement. This stock right here, some of our best selling kits, our favorited kits, have this stock on it, and people love it.
It's one of our top performers, period.
Yeah.
Like both in kits and individually. It's regularly one of our top. I mean, we have, I don't know how many SKUs live right now, but it's I look at the numbers on it and I'm like, we have a lot of stocks on our website.
Yeah.
And I look at the numbers on it and I'm like, it's consistently in the top 5, if not number 1 of all of our stocks. And it's a mover, and
we
justifiably so.
We appreciate your partnership over the last couple of years for sure. And we're so excited to be part of this giveaway. This is our first giveaway we get to be part of. So we're excited to see the output and see who the winner is.
Win this. Link down below. Win this.
Super sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we're glad we got this stock on it and grip. It really enhances it, I think.
And this is our first giveaway with 2 Idaho companies at the same time. Unique ARs is up there in McCall.
Yep, Unique's about 2 hours from us. They make an excellent product too. A lot of creativity and like that We the People one. Is that custom that they did for that? That's great.
Yeah, yes, custom. This is actually going to be their new We the People one. So they redesigned the We the People for this giveaway. So
that's awesome.
That is custom. That is going to be a new product, or probably a version of that. So
it's interesting at the SHOT Show. Little tidbit for listeners, but Idaho is one of the most represented states at the SHOT Show. So our biggest industry show has the most companies come from the state of Idaho. So
I was going to ask, when you're talking about Idaho, there's something about it. Sometimes Jordan wants to run away there. Unique is there.
I do own property there. What if it wasn't for my kids, I probably would have figured out a way to transfer up there.
So what is it about Idaho right now?
I think it's a business environment. It's friendly to business, of course, tax-wise and employer-wise. They're really open to helping out as much as they can as a state, and then employees here. A lot of people have been relocating from west of us, I guess you'd say, whether it's Washington, Oregon, California. So there's a lot of people coming in with similar interests to our industry. There's companies moving into the valley that are relocating entire businesses from California or from Washington or Oregon, just in an effort to maintain their livelihood, but, a partner with a state that believes and backs their same beliefs too. So, and plus it's just a great place. We got 4 seasons. We got, the water is amazing. The fishing's amazing. So, it's a great state to be in.
The snow at Targhee is the best. Never mind. It's not, it's terrible. Don't want to go there.
Nobody go there.
Don't go there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go to Mammoth.
Yeah, go to Mammoth. Stay in Mammoth for sure.
Yeah. Now, so how'd you get into shooting?
Shooting, in high school, I was always a sports guy, and still am a sports guy. I grew up with a single mom, so shooting wasn't necessarily, something that was a passion when I was younger. And then when we started Knox, it was just starting to be a lot of interest to me. And then with Knox starting, we're just kind of shoved into shooting. It's like you shoot at work, you shoot at home, you're shooting in videos, and it just started to become more and more of a passion. Always had a respect for it, always had an understanding of why people enjoyed it so much, but just having a single mom, it just was never financially that feasible to do that kind of stuff either. Where we grew up, it just wasn't as accessible. But now, we love it. We do it all the time here at work, like I said, with testing, but also just with on the side with shooting with the boys. Our business here, we're a small business. It's full of hunters and shooters. That's what we do. If you don't know about it, you hire to bring someone else in that has a passion for an area, maybe that you don't. So we have a lot of hunters, a lot of shooters, a lot of tactical guys. So together, it's just a really good balance of shooting sports here.
So one of the questions, I guess it's not on my list. I got a list of questions here in front of me, but one of the things that I've always admired about you is your ability to do product development. And can you walk us through, like, how did you come up with the first Knox stock? And like you said, you built it in your garage. Like,
we started Knox in my garage, and my business partner, Jim. Wish Jim was here.
Which Jim's awesome, and they every time they go out to dinner, Jim has another birthday.
They have another birthday. Jim he turned 80. He'll be 81 this year in
But he's probably
April.
had 200 birthdays.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. So every SHOT Show I get him every time. We probably have, like you said, 3 birthdays. And whatever restaurant we celebrate another birthday, just in case, you never know when it's your last. So we always want to squeeze in as many birthday parties as possible. But
Yeah.
Jim, like I said, is my business partner and my uncle. And he has over 60 patents. So a lot of patents. If you look him up, compared to other well-known people in the industry, like your Brownings and things like that, his name, as far as the volume of patents, is really high. So he has a mind for design, and of course, protecting those designs as well. We don't a lot of times do something unless we can have some sort of patent on it. Which patents is it's a risky investment, because you have to have the resources to back up the patent, of course, or you have to have an item that it can actually be patented. So we focus on a lot of items that we can protect, with IP. But Jim is a passionate designer. But as a team here, and he'll tell you this, which is a great thing about him, is if someone walks in the door, we don't care if it's a receptionist, office manager, office worker. If someone walks by and goes, "Did you guys ever think about this?" Well, no, that's a great idea, So it's a team effort, and some people get a little prideful and like, "Oh no, I didn't think of that," or that's a stupid idea. You're not an engineer or whatever. And that's not our philosophy here as far as design. We want to make sure that the design is complete. And if someone's walking by, or if we just ask, like we ask our production manager a lot, like, "What do you think about this? Is this easy to put together?" And there's like, "Nope, that's going to be a nightmare." Okay, well, we'll go back to the design table and take a look at it. And like with our philosophy here, it's like, finish the design and then start taking out some parts that maybe you don't need. And once it stops working, then put that last part back in that you just took out. So, we try to keep things as simple as possible. We have a new stock we're coming out with right now, and the design started out, I forget how many parts it had in it, but we've probably taken out 12 parts.
Wow.
Since we've gotten closer to the end of the design, in an effort, one, to make it simpler, but also simpler to make, simpler to assemble, simpler for the customer to use. Anything you have extra parts, because we have a lot of people bring us designs, you're like, "That is terrible. That's going to break the first time you use it." So our design philosophy is keep it simple and keep it tough, keep it easy to manufacture, so it performs well, when the customer finally gets it.
So selfishly, I'm an idea guy.
Yeah.
But I don't know how. Like, I got tons of ideas that I have no idea how to create.
Yeah.
What can you walk us through your process?
Sure. People come to us once they hear you're a designer, or like Jim gets a lot of people that call him because he has patents, and they'll call him up. I just want to make this patent. I just want to do this idea. I have this idea, and it's a lot of times we talk to them. It's ideas are easier, let's say. Going from idea to product is a huge leap, as you well know. Like with that stock right there, that's a lot of money invested just in the tooling to make that stock right there.
Yeah.
So
and yours are made in the USA. You don't import. They're not. Your molds aren't overseas.
Nope. All made here in Nampa. So a lot of times to go from idea to product is a huge leap. Not only because of the cost of investing in that, that product, that mold to make the product, but you have to look a lot of times at a design to see if it's even worth. Like, you might have a great idea that 7 people will buy.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to invest $100,000 in that plastics mold right there if 7 people are going to buy it. It's like that's the amazing part of rapid prototype machines now. You could make those 7 products and have a great idea, but is it worth looking at a product? One, is it worth patenting? Is it worth the investment of the requirements, whether it is a sewing machine or a molding device or CNC machine, whatever it takes to make that product? Is it worth the investment in making that product? And then once you decide that, Then you start moving forward with the design to see if it is manufacturable, because some things just also aren't feasible to manufacture. If I can sell 7 of them and they cost, $8,000 a piece to make, and people are only willing to pay $59 for them, then obviously you aren't going to go down that road either. So one, you have to see, is it manufacturable? Is it worth manufacturing? And then two, are people going to want it? Because a lot of times there's a lot of great products out there, but nobody necessarily wants them, outside of your circle of friends that might think it's a really great idea.
A lot of times, when people have ideas and their network, it's an echo chamber where it's like you're talking to all of the people that want that.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'll ping you later about one of my ideas on how I could develop it, because I think it's something that you would want as a consumer.
Yeah. And, there's another idea. I mean, do you really want to be in business for yourself too, or do you want to take it to someone else? Like we get people that approach us with ideas, and it's, oh, that's a great idea. What are you wanting to do with it? Are you wanting to start your own business where you go around to all the trade shows and you have all your reps out there, or you're going to every individual dealer and trying to sell it? Or is your dream to maybe have this product that you get a patent on and then you maybe sell it to another business and they write you a check for it, which is great? Or another option, which a lot of people pursue and we recommend, is selling that product to another company and maybe receiving a royalty.
Oh, yeah.
So every product that's sold, you get 35 cents or $3 or $7 or $10 every one that's sold.
Yeah, I want that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Mailbox. It's mailbox money. We call it mailbox money.
I want mailbox money.
Yeah.
That sounds nice.
So that when you take it to a company that has the distribution already, they already have a brand. You don't have to worry about all that. You just brought them an amazing idea. You get the fulfillment of bringing a product to market that you made, and someone else is putting their legs behind it that's already established, and you don't have to go out and hassle with all that unless that's your passion.
So what are the challenges? One of the things that this podcast is kind of turning into is us really like interviewing US based manufacturers.
Yeah.
And, you talk to people that aren't in the firearms industry and they're like, nothing's made in the US. You go to SHOT Show and it's a wildly different experience.
Yeah.
What are some of the both the benefits and challenges of being a US based manufacturer?
We've found it depends on the category you're in. I can start there. In our category, accessories, most customers out there, and you might agree on this with accessories on firearms, most people want made in the USA. Unless it's maybe a railed forend or maybe a small component that maybe they aren't that concerned about it. But most people, they want to see made in USA on their stock. They want to see made in USA on their receiver, or it's hard to import those kind of parts. But
yeah, you're not doing a lot of importing on receivers.
Or they want to see that it's made in the USA by USA workers, and it's in a price point that most of those items are made in the USA and they are still affordable. Or they're in that category and they want to pay for the quality of a US made optic or a US made receiver set, whatever it is. I think the challenge comes when you start drifting into, let's say, sewn goods like apparel. Like Jocko with his I think Origins brand.
I love the Origins stuff, but I'm a huge. Pete, if you're watching this, you can send me a care package. I'll wear them on all the podcasts.
Yeah. I think some of those items there, especially like backpacks, those larger sewn items.
Soft goods.
Yeah. It's difficult. And a lot of the major brands you look at are imported from, Vietnam. Vietnam's a large source for sewn goods. Of course, China. A lot of those countries, they just have the capacity, the workforce, the quality is actually super high that comes out of Vietnam for packs. But they still make a pack that's affordable for a consumer. I think the challenge is for U.S. made soft goods and things like that is the price point starts to drift way up. And the consumers might say, hey, I'm going to buy USA only, USA, USA, USA. And then when they get to the store and they see USA made bag X at $700 and Vietnamese bag made and it's at 129 and the quality's super high,
Yeah,
that's
it's
a
hard to compete,
that's a
when you're,
hard sell right there, you know.
yeah,
Um, but for us, we really need to be, USA made. Um, we might have we try to source as much as we can in the US as far as, screws and hardware and there's things like that. Sometimes though, it's hard to tell where some of those things come from because we buy them from other vendors. Um, but we like a lot of our pins and all that kind of stuff are made here in the US. So and sourced U.S. materials. Then our injection molding is literally done right here in Idaho. So we are truly a U.S. made product line. We
yeah.
do have
No.
we do have a few sewn goods that are from Vietnam, but that's been the best source for us as far as quality.
Yeah.
Well, and that's one of the things I've seen is like, especially in the injection molding side, like, yeah, the receiver sets are the tariffs and fees on importing those, the
Yeah.
quality of them, like you don't want to import those. Like
No.
it's just, it's not cost effective with
Mm-hmm.
anything serialized or, firearms like component. Um, that's one of the things I've seen though is like the injection molding stuff. The USA made stuff isn't that much more expensive than
Mm-hmm.
stuff that comes from overseas,
Yeah,
if at all. Like
that's true.
I've seen stuff that comes from overseas that is inferior quality that's more expensive
Mhm.
than what you guys have, and I'm not talking about like importing it from Israel
Yeah.
or whatever, but
You
But
think about. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was just gonna say, one of the big advantages of you being in Idaho and making these, and us being in Utah, is when we need more, you're right there, and you can
Exactly.
make them. You guys make them pretty quickly, and
Yeah.
can get it to us right away. So
Yeah.
we're thankful for that.
Exactly. Um, you really, if you think about it, Jordan, too, you aren't gaining a lot by molding items overseas per se, because you are, injecting in the machinery and in the injection equipment, and then the parts drop out in a box. So you're not really throwing a lot of labor at it. Let's say if let's say you're making Bic lighters though, and I don't know if they make them overseas, but if you're injecting those, putting them together, putting them in a package, there's a lot more labor skill set there for an item like maybe that. So when you bring it into the U.S., you're bringing in something's already packaged, it's already been
yeah,
molded, everything's already done. There's a lot of labor thrown at it, electronics, things like that. But something like ours, you're not really gaining a lot by having something overseas um, in that instance. So for us, it just doesn't calculate, and plus, it's just not our target customer that wants that. So
No, it makes sense.
no,
yeah.
I when we were crafting ideas for this podcast, I didn't think that we were going to be kind of the champions for, like, it was a thought that didn't cross my mind, the champions for like U.S. manufacturing. Not that
Yeah.
we're like the entire champions, but that that would be a consistent theme that we started. Like everybody we've interviewed so far are U.S. based manufacturers. Granted, we've had
Mhm.
4 episodes, but
Just huge proponents of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
but just the a lot of this podcast is going to be just us helping promote our giveaway partners
Yeah.
and promoting the giveaways that we're doing. um and I didn't realize it, but most of them are US based manufacturers, and so it's like
Yeah.
I want to get better at telling that story.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good story, and I always love reading, like business cases and like talking about how business started. People find that interesting, and that's, and we're not so huge that that story gets lost. We're all the same people that started the business here. You call us. When the ladies all go home at a certain time, I pick up the phone. So it's there's some reality there for a small business and here in the U.S. and the relationships we have with our customers. And if you read our feedback, that's a lot of them are like, hey, I call, someone picks up the phone, and there's somebody in the office that I can deal with. There's a problem, or if I need something shipped extra fast because I'm going hunting this weekend, then we do our best to get something shipped out the door and their needs are filled. So
That's awesome. I do have to ask, just because you and I have talked about it on our own. Uh, how do you know Tim Kennedy?
Yeah, there's a lot of your listeners and viewers are definitely going to know that name. Tim's a great guy. We grew up in the same town, and I was a newlywed when I first met his family. We used to go to church together in Atascadero, California, which is the central coast of California, and his family went there. And so we spent a lot of time at Tim's parents' home because they're probably the most hospitable people you'll know. Um, Funny story. We go over the first time I go to their house, and this is just an example of how friendly their family is. And we're sitting there on the couch, and everybody's hanging out, and everybody's there from church, and other people were there. And uh, Tim's mom asked, what do you need? What do you want for dessert? I'm like, what do I want for dessert? Really? And she's like, yeah, I'll just make anything. I'm like, and I just popped off. I said, I love just homemade tapioca pudding. And she's like, done. And like 20 minutes later or whatever it was, here's a bowl of tapioca in my lap. And she's like, there you go. And I always remember that story. And they would have people over there every weekend for homemade tacos and burritos and tri-tip. And Tim's cut from that same mold, of course. Super hospitable, real person. So Tim was actually, when I speak about Knox, our first business, Tim was one of the first people to help us out and work for us.
Oh, really?
At Knox.
Wow.
So lots of stories. If you read his book, Scars
Yeah, I
and
was
Stripes.
gonna say, yep. I have that's my next question. So
Yeah, Scars and Stripes.
keep going.
Scars and Stripes, great book. He mentions us in there a couple times, and the stories in that book, I didn't even know those stories myself until a little bit before that book came out, when he was telling us about what was going to be in the book. He's like, "Don't be surprised, this is going to be in the book," and I'm like, "Really, really, this happened?" So he was again first employee and worked with us. If it's funny, if you go down our hallway right here, and he says, "Don't show anybody that picture," there's a big poster that we used in our very first SHOT Show booth. And it's of Tim Kennedy in his dad's police gear. His dad was a law enforcement. He was a DEA or a DA investigator in San Luis Obispo. Kicked doors open, was drug enforcement, all this kind of stuff. And so, but Tim's in his dad's gear, all geared up with our shotgun stuff, in a poster in there, and you can tell it's 18-year-old Tim. And
that's awesome.
He signed us, Rangers lead the way and different things like that on the sign. But he's like, don't show anybody that. So he would help us at trade shows. And his dad, to this day, he helped us at this year's SHOT Show. He still helps us every year at SHOT Show. His dad, Mike.
I got to meet him in your booth this year.
Yeah, genuine guy. Genuine.
Yeah, super. I'd known him for all of 10 minutes, and he hands me a business card. He's like, if you're ever in California, give me a call. We'll come shoot at the ranch. And I'm like,
yeah, he has a great ranch. Great ranch.
You're like, you've known me 10 minutes.
So if you've read the book, if you haven't read the book, it's not a plug about the book, but Scars and Stripes. In the middle of the book, he's talking about when he worked with us at Knox. He was a gun runner for us, really. We were a new company, and we were going to the NRA show in New Orleans. And we had all these prototype guns because we were a new business. We had all these guns. We didn't want to ship them, because a lot of them were one of a kind or whatever. And we had all of our trade show equipment. And Tim's like, I'm going to be at the show. You want me to drive them there? You want me to be your driver? And I'm like, sure, that's awesome. That's a great idea. Hindsight,
not so good.
Maybe that car was never the same afterwards. And if you read the book, you'll know why. But he set out with our newer Lincoln Navigator at the time, my wife and I. And he called me, I think, like a little over a day later. And he's like, yep, I'm here. I'm like, you're from California to New Orleans? You're already there? And he's like, yep, I'm here. I'm like, really? That was fast. Yeah, I didn't, I took, I was, didn't really sleep in a hotel or anything. I just, I got there, and that was fast.
Beeline.
That's a, That's a long time. So we
I'm
get
not a geography
there.
major, but like that's like
Yeah.
2,000 miles.
Yeah. So he was peeing in a jug in the front seat, getting picked up by ladies going down the highway in my car. Like my car was violated. It was never the same after that. Um, but he made it all the way to New Orleans, and so we followed, a few days later to come to the show. And we get there, and he's there to pick us up at the airport and everything. And he's got a huge shiner. His eye is just, it is a shiner. So big black eye there, and we're like, what in the world has happened? What?
Yeah.
You've been here a day and a half. What is going on? He's like, well, I was because he was into it just as much then. He was training with Chuck Liddell and
Yeah.
doing all this stuff on the side and fighting for money on the side. And he said, well, I was just training at the local MMA gym and I just got popped, with a knee. It was my fault. I got this, big shiner. Like, oh man, that's terrible. And so my wife got out the makeup, and like we covered it up for the show so it wasn't so shiny. And we went through the show, and I found a picture a few days ago in the drawer, I think, and it was Tim smiling in the booth, and you could tell it was there. But so if you read the book, I guess rewind or fast forward to the book, he actually was in a bar in New Orleans, hanging out, and he noticed two guys get into a scuffle at the bar, and they were starting to get into it, like guys at a bar, and some guy comes up and pulls them apart and kind of talks to both of them, and then they disappear. And he's like, well, that's weird. And that guy comes back. He wasn't like roughing them up and throwing them out. He was talking to them, and then they just walked out together. These two guys were previously just fighting. And he's like, I wonder what that's about. So he started a little trouble at about the same spot in the bar. And that guy, came up the same way and said, would you be interested in doing a little back alley paid fighting? So they took him down the alleyway into this other secret place and set up a fight for money. And this room was full of other people watching these fights that they were just pulling people from bars and fighting. And Tim won the fight, but he had gotten a pop in the eye from that fight. So that's the story. That was the true story after we read the book.
Well, and didn't he spend like the rest of the time till he picked you up, like basically prize fighting in that back alley or something?
Yeah, making money. Money. And he had stories like that, fighting out in the desert in weird locations that were like closed off, and like stuff you'd see in the movies with Jean-Claude, just weird fighting venues and winning cash and no weights, and yeah. So it was always an adventure with Tim. But he's a great guy. He's a supporter of our companies. He's a supporter of our family. He's a great person. So it's a relationship that carries on today.
How I found out that you knew him is he was on the cover of, I think it was either Recoil or Ballistic Magazine, and he had an AR slung across his chest, and it was your stock.
Yep.
And so I took a screenshot. I'm like, is this your stock? Like, are you aware Tim Kennedy's? And you told me, you're like, oh yeah, that's Tim. He's a good friend. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. Like,
yes.
And I just went to his jiu-jitsu seminar here, and per your request, you said go up and give him a hug for me. And I'm like, Tim, you don't know me, but Gary Cauble says I need to give you a hug. He's like, well, bring it in. So
nice.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
How did you do in the class? Was it good training? I mean,
all right. So jiu-jitsu is known as the gentle art. There's nothing gentle about the way that Tim does it. Like that guy's a beast.
Yeah.
I've never seen that many black belts at one time before as that seminar. And he did open rolling with them afterwards. And these are guys Tim's a black belt. I am not. I'm a blue belt. But I never saw Tim where he wasn't in control.
Really?
With these guys that are of the same rank as him. Yeah, he had a few more stripes on his belt. He's probably been doing it longer, but it's like these guys are, I mean, it's not easy to get a jiu-jitsu black belt.
No.
And He's like, yeah, I give it, 3 to 5 seconds before, like, I'll start on bottom with everybody, and I give you 3 to 5 seconds before I'm on top. Longest I saw him go was 7.
Really?
Yeah. I
Impressive.
wasn't watching him the entire time. This is a map full of people, but I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like 7 seconds before he's on top. And he's like, I'm going to submit you one of 2 ways. And he told them what they were going to be. So like,
That's incredible.
Yeah.
One other I was just telling this Tim Kennedy story this week to somebody here, Nick Hoffer from the Omni Carry holsters. I think we had talked about those.
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
I have one on me.
You're testing it. That's good.
Yes.
I was telling Nick yesterday that when Tim did the grand opening for the 511 store in Vegas, they had a big event this year. I think they have an event there every year in Vegas. But when the grand opening, they had Tim's big picture above it. There's actually a billboard that's right above the store on the freeway there, and his picture was up there and stuff. So they made a big deal about it, obviously. But this is how Tim is. Like 3 people are waiting in line because everybody's like a meet and greet and signatures and stuff or autographs. And there's 3 people, and they come up and they ask, and they said, we're the local like knife training expert group, whatever that was.
Yeah.
And they said, we want to face off with you right now. In line. He's like,
right here, right now.
He's like in his jeans, like his 511 stretchy jeans, which he loves. And he's like, sure, let's do it. And like it spread out the area. There's a female, I think, and 2 guys that wanted to do it, and he worked all 3 of them just right there in line. Here's your fake knife, and they just went at it right there, and he destroyed all 3 of them in line. So it's like,
dang.
He's just Mr. Random as far as things that happen to him, and he's open to whatever. So.
And I'm going to give a plug for the book. Like, if you're into patriotism or Second Amendment, just a fan of the Second Amendment, like it's laugh out loud funny. Like, you should definitely check out the book. It's definitely worth the read.
I think it just released
from you, Jordan, and Gary. I'm for sure reading it.
Yeah, but come on, get on it, man.
I know.
Don't you love America and the Second Amendment? What's wrong with you, Patrick?
And he just released it, I think, in France and Italy. I think he released it in French and Italian.
Wow.
Wow.
So
global.
If you're fluent in French, then you can read it in French. So
maybe English first, but then second read.
Yeah. Gary, we so much appreciate your time and you coming on with us today. How can people find you guys? Give a plug for Adaptive Tactical and
sure. First off, they can win one. They can win one on the rifle right there, so that's a great way to start. Of course, you can buy it through all of our websites, adaptivetactical.com if you want to come and read about it, research it there. Of course, Delta Team Tactical is always the best place to go, right? Or Omega, right? That's you guys are one of our top customers or partners in the industry. So we often prefer that people go to our outlets or our online retailers or physical brick and mortar retailers or catalog houses. Support our customers too, because you can buy a lot more products than just our products at a lot of places like your guys's. So we always value that partnership, and we're here to support those purchases just the same. So if there's questions that people have when they buy it through you guys, then we're there to help them and support them where we can. But yeah, if they want more information at adaptivetactical.com, or of course on all the different social medias under Adaptive Tactical. So
cool, definitely check them out. Any other things you want to share with us before we sign off?
Yeah, keep watching. Like I said, we partner with Mossberg. We do a lot of projects for them. We partner with Genesis. We have new products coming all the time. We have a new holster line that we're developing. So always check back. And of course, Delta Team and Omega is going to have those products too. So as soon as the new products come, they're going to be all those locations as well. So
awesome.
Perfect.
Yep.
Well, thank you guys for tuning into the PowderBurn podcast. Thank you to Gary for coming on, and tell Jim I said happy birthday.
Yes, happy birthday again. Yes, for sure.
All right.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Next time.
All right.
See you guys.
Bye, guys.